Hey, F50Woman audience. This is our first ever video and podcast, both. If you're listening to us on audio, please go over to YouTube or my website. And if you're watching the video, if you just want to listen because you're driving in your car, drive safely. So just put on the podcast. And I can't wait for you to hear from these two incredible ladies. I am so blessed to have them here today. I'm going to quickly introduce them. Renita Alexander, she's a servant leader. She's an author. She's a retired United States Air Force colonel from Leadership Unlocked. That is her company. And she started her company after retiring from the United States Air Force. So welcome, Renita.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes,
awesome.
We can hear you well. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And
so then, excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And then Veronica Williams, she is a master certified life coach, a keynote speaker, and a certified facilitator from Alliance Seminars. She was on podcast episode 21, and it's titled Lemons in My Life. You can't miss that one. It was just an incredible talk. A lot of wisdom came out of that. And wait till you hear her life of faith. It's faith building. So welcome, Veronica. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you, Julia, for having me. I'm excited to be here again.
Yeah, we're here to have a chat with some powerful leaders in their industries, communities, and families. It's just so important, you know, us as women facing 50. So I'm excited to hear who you are and what you do and give us some keys to the kingdom. Please, I'll start with Renita since I introduced you first. Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us why you're here and what your purpose is.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
Yes.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much again for having me. I'm excited to be here this afternoon. I was just in a mentoring session this morning talking with some young adults and, you know, some of the same things and trying to share some knowledge, some things that I've learned in my 50 plus years.
Yeah. I always say we're either facing 50 from the front or the back, but we're always facing them.
There you go. I'm about halfway. I think I'm about halfway to the journey. So Renita Alexander, I am a child of God. I'm a child of W.L. and Fannie Mae Smith from Florence, Alabama. I'm the oldest of 5 children and the oldest grandchild on both sides of my family. So you could say I learned everything I learned about leadership mostly in the Air Force, but I actually started my leadership journey as a child. You know, when you're the oldest grandchild and the oldest child, you often get those kind of experience where you're voluntold to lead your siblings and or cousins in some activity, which I always compared to like herding cats, right? So that was my initial leadership experience. My Southern upbringing was responsible for one of the leadership lessons I learned. It's all about leadership for me. I learned being the oldest that responsibility with no authority requires a relationship, right? And leadership is all about relationship. I learned being from the South that agreement doesn't necessarily mean disrespect. That was one of the things I got as a Southern girl. If you are a leader, especially of teams, the point is to get different perspectives and experiences. And so, you know, you're going to expect some disagreement on a leadership team. My very first Air Force job, I learned something about myself as a leader, and that is leading myself. We can't really expect to lead others well if we're not leading ourselves. One of the things I learned is that I can positively impact my leadership team based on what I bring to the table, how I show up. So I always try to show up appropriately and authentically. What helps me do that is I have a routine in the morning. I start my day off with prayer, with meditation, with just sitting with myself and, you know, getting myself prepared for the day and how I want to show up. I started my company after spending almost 27 years in the Air Force. One of the things I discovered post Air Force is there's a lot of people out here doing leadership that don't really understand what leadership is. So I started Leadership Unlocked to help leaders dig deep and discover that authentic, unique leadership DNA within each of us so they can share that with those they are privileged to lead, unlock that, show up authentically, and get the positions they deserve. Because I really think we need more authentic servant leadership. If we're not focused on something bigger than ourselves when it comes to leadership, why are we here?
Yeah.
The why is, I think everybody can be a better leader. I believe if we're not growing, we're dying. Even as a seasoned woman, there's always more I can learn. I love being around young people because I'm always learning from them. I have more to learn, but I have a lot to share because I know some things.
Yes, you do. And we're going to drag some of that out of you today. And Veronica, I know these are just two incredible women of God. I'm going to put that right on the table because I know that has something to do with their spark in leadership as well. But Veronica, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it. What's your purpose? What's the point?
Hello again. I am Veronica. As you've mentioned, I am a co-owner of Alliance Seminars Coaching, a master certified life coach, a licensed minister, and a daughter of God. I want to provide expertise and assistance as it relates to relationship and purpose to individuals. The seventh daughter and the youngest of 11. I'm originally from California, from a large family. I'm a wife, a mom, and I'm just super excited to be a disciple for Christ.
Nice. And I like how it's almost like you're both doing leadership. Veronica, it feels like you're focusing a lot on the relationship, and Renita, you're focusing on the leadership in terms of authenticity of who you are. So it just is all in a big package. You both talked a little bit about your purpose. How do we find our purpose? Maybe you can both talk about that. You know, this can be a conversation. We can bounce ideas off. Whoever wants to take it first. How do we find our purpose? We do things in life. We have jobs, we have children, we have desires, we have things we want. But why are we here? How do we find that?
You want to go first, Renita, or you want me to answer?
The dreams that we have, the things that God places on us, those things that we feel we are led to. Often we don't feel like we have the tools. My feeling is we wouldn't be given the dream if we didn't have the capacity to fulfill it. When we are given those things, He wants us to act on it, to get to it. All of the things, our personality, our skills, our knowledge are all in service to that purpose. And then our responsibility is to gain what we need to gain to really be able to do it. And I think your purpose changes, right? So my purpose was different when I was, maybe the way I exercise it is different. I'm kind of doing the same thing that I have been doing my whole adult life, but I'm just doing it in a different way. And so, I felt really called to do this after I retired. And I saw a need that was something that I was called to help fulfill. I mean, we have a scarcity of real leadership in this country. I mean, we just saw what happens when you get people. First of all, we don't understand the difference between a confident leader and a bully. So, that's part of the problem. And that's not just in this country, but worldwide, that egocentric leadership. And so we got to get away from that. But so that, it's the things that we feel, the things that are placed on us and that we have to act on so that we get it while it's hot.
Yeah. I think what I've noticed doing this podcast in the last year is that a lot of people are born with something they just gravitate to naturally. And as a child, you just do it. You're not trying to have a purpose or a plan. And then as they get older, like you said, Renita, you shift and sort of do this, you do that, but you're always searching for the right lane to give an outlet to that purpose that you were born with. So that was great.
Absolutely.
And Veronica, what do you think? Tell us your thoughts.
I'll tell you my thoughts.
Yes.
For me, as a Christian, it's living out my God-given talent because He gives it to us. From when we were in our mother's womb, He created us to be here on earth for a purpose. So it was that for me.
Yeah.
You find it by paying attention to the situations that you find yourself in, or that I say that God put you in. And every situation is to help us maximize those gifts that God has given us. We just have to pay close attention to aligning my life with God's plan and work towards it as a wife, mom, sister, in our workplaces and friendships. That's how I find purpose, how I have found my purpose, and how I try to help others find their purpose.
Okay. And you're talking about your God-given purpose. So maybe both of you can talk about, how do you stay on the rails? How do you not get off the rails? How do you not get distracted, confused? Yeah.
I would say surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people that are where you want to go, meaning like, don't just stay with the people at the same level that you're at. And then find mentors and resources that are out there to assist you to get where you want to go and what you feel that purpose is for you. I think the way life happens is how we trip on it and how we discover it. It could be taught to us to a degree as to how our parents rear us in certain areas and things like that. For me, I had to learn my own individuality. By the time I graduated high school, I finally felt like, oh, wow, I got my own individuality. My identity wasn't found in my siblings because I had 10 above me, right? And you live life. The challenges that you go through will help you discover it. That's also where you discover a passion, things that you really like. You look at, how can it not only benefit me, but how can it also benefit others? I think that's how I discovered Alliance Coaching. Darrell and I, we both were Christians. We both were sold out Christians in our adult lives. And when we connected back up in our adult life, we discovered where we were both going and where God was leading us. And so that's what happened. And out of that, we both love teaching the Word of God to children, to young people, to adults. Once we got married, we saw so many relationships that were broken, tearing down. It started with me being a mentor to young teenager girls, and then mentoring women that were in marriages that they couldn't figure out why the man was the way he was. And giving them more purpose and finding themselves, letting them know that a man does not define you just because he has the role of a husband. You need to really seek and search a little deeper to allow God to give you and show you your value and why you're with who you're with, and learn how to make decisions. A lot of that comes to play with that. I was fortunate to have my sisters as my mentors who were in good relationships. And even if they happened to meet someone that wasn't the right way, they showed me how to safely get out of a relationship. Which is so important, because we don't make a plan when we're in abusive relationships. We don't make a plan whether the abuse is emotional, physical, or otherwise. And so my passion, by having so many sisters that poured into me and so many friends that I met over the years who were older that poured into me, that was my passion to give back. And so I wanted to pay it forward. I didn't realize that that was a calling that God had on me as well. It wasn't just my husband that was called to the ministry to be a servant leader, but I've already had been doing it. But now it was time for me to come from behind the curtains. I love to work from behind the curtains, but I got a push one day when God said, no, I need you to get from behind the curtains. Like the lightning strikes that keeps you from hiding. You need to just go out and be bold and be who I've called you to be. And so I think if people had encouragement and things like that and discovered the resources that are around to show them why they're living and how what they go through in life is not to keep them stuck, but it is to pull out of them so they may flow and grow in the areas that God desires of them, and then to help someone else.
Yes, that's true. Those storms really are meant to build you and not to break you. And so, Renita, tell us what your advice would be to not get off the rails.
How to stay on track.
How to
stay on track. Right?
Yes.
I think first of all, once you kind of are in alignment, once you've made that discovery about what it is that you're called to do, and I agree with what Veronica said, your personality, your talents, all of those things are there to serve that purpose. And then, being discerning about what is not serving and who is not helping you serve your purpose. Not everybody can be on the train with you. Sometimes there are people there that are draining you, are trying to carry you off track. And so, Veronica mentioned those people that are in alignment with the direction that you're going, those mentors, people that aspire to something, maybe not the exact same thing, but that aspire to continue to grow, to continue to lean into their God-given purpose, then those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. The other thing that we both mentioned is this idea of something other than and bigger than. If you find yourself serving, what is this serving? Is it serving me? And which is not to say that you should not take care of yourself. Right? Before we can pour into anybody or anything else, it has to be from a place of abundance, right? Fullness and abundance, right? Yes. So I'm not about the lack, right? There's enough for all of us.
Yes.
We have to come from a place of fullness and abundance, but making sure that we are being discerning about the things that serve and don't serve our purpose. I had to say no to a mentee recently who had asked me to be a part of something that I knew in my spirit, I'm just not in a place where I can sit in that toxicity and be okay. It's going to be a toxic environment. I already know that. I just didn't feel like I was in a place where I could withstand that. And I had to say, if you can't find anybody else, but I just don't think I'm in a place to be able to do that. So being discerning and aware of the things that, are fulfilling your purpose and filling you up, not draining you. Those are the things that I do to stay on purpose, and that I encourage the people that I help be better leaders to stay on purpose.
So have either of you ever been in a place where you feel like you had to say yes to everything as leaders? Felt like you had to try to save the world, that yes, I have to go do that for them because they need me, and I have to go do that for them because they need me. Have you ever been in that situation? Did you have to move out of that? Or were you always very aware that I can't save everyone and that's not my purpose?
That's just in life that we all try to be rescuers. We want to rescue everybody. Other discoveries, you have to figure out and identify, am I here to rescue, or am I here just to serve as a presence of support? And identify that. But that goes through growth. You go through a lot of rescuing before you discover, like, wait a minute, their emergency is not my emergency.
Wow.
So
yes.
Maybe I'm just here for their support.
Yes.
Maybe I'm just to serve a ministry of presence rather than a ministry of help. Right. Because so often we go in when other people are going through to rescue them, and we hinder what God's plan is for them.
Yes.
Even when I've gone through, I'm quick to call mom and dad and my sisters.
Yeah, save me.
But sometimes when they've had to say no, it was the hardest pill to swallow. After everything, you realize that their no was good for me, because that was the only way that was going to steer me and lead me to the path that God has me on. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have to discover when people call on us. We're by no means perfect. I'm just a regular human, and we're sinners saved by grace. Mm-hmm. That sin happens every day in thought, word, or deed. We have to always be mindful of what's happening around us and what purpose and what aspect are we to be a part of other people's lives. Yeah. To me, I've learned to tell people is one word, and it has a period afterneath. People don't want just no, but we feel compelled to give an explanation. But giving the explanation makes things worse. Just say no.
Drags you into an endless hole of explanations and why not.
What we go through is what gets us to our purpose. If we don't go through anything in life, we'll never discover our true purpose. We'll never discover what works for us and what doesn't. And we will never discover who's in and who's out of our lives and what purpose they serve for us. we have to lead by example. That's what servant leaders do. They lead by example and are always teaching who they're serving how to be better, and how to embark on discovering, is this for me to really pursue, or is this for me just to know that it's there to get to my next? Some things are not always for you to pursue, and it's okay. We stumbled on how we got to this point where we look good, right? We don't look like what we've been through, right?
Right.
But life serves us well, even in the tragedies, even in the storms, even in whatever it is. And so don't discredit you're going through and the stuff that was a mess in the midst of all of it, because eventually when you discover your true purpose and your true reason why things go on and how you get into stuff, we've all been wrapped up in stuff, like you were talking about, Renita, trying to go to a place that have toxicity,
Yeah.
We've all been there, but then now we're working out, how do you get out of it? And so that's why you have to always be in alignment in your prayer life, in alignment with your devotion, in alignment and true to yourself. And I think as long as we're authentic and true with anyone that we come in contact with, they will accept our no's. They will accept when we have to decline some things or when we can't be a part of it, but we can show them, I may not be able to be there, but I'll support you. You send them a little card or a text message before their event and let them know, I might not be there, but I'm thinking about you today.
Yeah.
You said something, Veronica, no period. I always say no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
It is okay to say no.
And for a lot of us, I know when you say that, it's like, I have to search and make sure that I'm still doing it, because you feel like saying no, because what's happening is in my life, I have this. And like you said, it just makes it worse, because then they're like, that's not so important. It just makes it worse. Yeah.
And if you say no, if you know in your spirit, you're not supposed to do it and you do it anyway, right? So then you feel some kind of way about that. So now you're giving from that place of lack, and the person's receiving it with some strings attached, and they feel that. People feel when we're not giving from an abundant place. They're kind of, okay, they're looking at you, they're feeling a certain way because they feel that attachment. Those obstacles that we encounter along the way, it's there to develop us. Right. I'm a big fitness enthusiast. In fact, I've been a fitness instructor and I'm a personal trainer. And that resistance training is how we develop muscles, how we maintain our ability to walk and do things as we get a little bit more seasoned. Right. So if we're not allowing people to experience things, they're not going to. Perhaps in the military, there were times where I felt like I had to do some things, and I did do some things. But as I got more senior, as I was in command, and my commands got more people and larger, I had 7 subordinate commanders in my last job. I just had to learn how to sit back, because it wasn't my responsibility to do certain things. I'll never forget, in my last job, I was the mission support group commander, which, if you think of an Air Force base like a small city, I was like the city manager. And I remember I had been on the base maybe a week or two. I hadn't even moved until my permanent quarters. And I got a phone call from the crisis action team at like 4:00 in the morning. They called to let me know that somebody a few layers underneath me had a DUI, in which, that's one of those things that, it's an issue in the, in the military. But I'm not the one that would take care of it. There's several other people that would take care of it before it got to me. And so I told them, don't call me at 4:00 in the morning for anything that's not actionable to me. I can get this information at regular duty hours. But see, they were used to people having to know. And it was like, no, that's why I have them. What I'm going to do. There was a first sergeant, there was a commander before it got to me. And so those are the people that need to know information about that. And so I kind of learned what is mine and what is theirs, and make a difference for people who perhaps had not been told that before. But if it's not actionable for me, I don't have to know it. Right. And so what is my responsibility? And consequences and boundaries are biblical concepts. Understanding what is our responsibility and then what is somebody else's responsibility is key to our development as well as theirs.
I like to add on what you're basically saying is just staying in your lane. When we learn how to stay in our lane. Because sometimes, and I understand that military concept when you're getting the calls for the DUIs and all of that, but that just serves well for civilians and for life. You know, we need to learn how to stay in our lane. We get so busy that our lives become disruptive, spending more time on other people's situations than our own.
Yeah.
We have to identify those things. You go through that many times and you hit a lot of rocks before you discover, you know what? That's not my lane.
It's your lane.
Yeah.
And I recently even shared with some friends of mine. Women call us all the time, you know, as Christians. Can you pray for me? But I've learned sometimes, I said, did you pray first? You know, it's not that I'm not empathetic, but did you pray first? Because I don't want to hinder what God wants you to go through. We have to be careful of that as leaders. We have to be careful as to when to intervene and when to not intervene.
Yeah.
And even in relationships in general. I just like that part. All I can hear in my mind is like learning to stay in your lane. If it's not your job, you know, and it's not being negative about it's not my job, but someone else can handle that.
One of the things that I learned. One of the things I learned, Veronica, is this idea of doing only what you as the leader can do. Because there's some things that only I could do as the leader. And, you know, and Acts, I can't remember what chapter, but, you know, the story where they were trying to feed the widows. You had the disciples who had walked with Jesus feeding the widows. They're like, you know what, let's delegate this. There's some other people that can do that part. We're the only ones who can, from our own experience, say what Jesus said, share what Jesus said. And so let us do that and delegate this thing that other people can do. So you got some more leaders that grew out of that experience, right? And so not only, to go back to the point, we prevent development when we are not doing the things we can do.
And a part of that is because it's just in our nature as women to fall, to help, to get into action. We're action people, but sometimes our action can intervene in a way that is not conducive to what is supposed to be the outcome. So I really love that. That's a good question you asked, Julia. Hopefully this is helpful to others to realize that everyone's problem is not your problem. Not that you're not empathetic, but learning how to be empathetic from a distance so that they can grow. Because we make people stagnant because we try to, that goes right into relationships. We want to fix something before it's even broken, before we even know what really needs to take place.
And then I'm also thinking about how you said, stay in your lane. There are some people who their experiences are suited to deal with a certain situation or a certain group of people. Because I was raised a certain way and I grew up in a certain place, and I'm trying to shift over into somebody else's territory, if you will, where their experience and who they are and who they grew up with can handle that better because they understand the dynamics and what's going on. And so as a leader, you might not be able to lead everybody in every area and every situation.
Leadership is personal. The way we lead is personal, but also how we respond to leadership is personal. It's based on our values, our beliefs, what we believe about leadership. All of those things are very personal to each of us. The best leaders are the ones that understand that everybody brings different strengths, different experiences, different expertise, different values to the table. And the leader that respects all that, that can see all that, that can allow every person to show up the highest version of them and bring all of that authenticity and expertise and experience to the table. The leader that allows that, is not overwhelmed by that or doesn't feel threatened by that, is going to get all of that great information and be a better decision maker. Right? Oprah used to say, people want to know that they've been seen and heard, and what they bring to the table is valued. And oftentimes I've learned, and we have this thing in the military called Salute Smartly, and it's this idea that you're supposed to bring everything that you are to the table, but one the decision maker makes the decision, you're going to salute smartly and then go out and execute that decision as if it was yours. And I found that when people get an opportunity to bring who they are to the table, that's really all they want. Right. Yeah. They just want to know that I brought myself, I brought what I know to the table. It was listened to, and the leader decided to go in a different direction. And I'm okay with that. I did my job, what I was supposed to do. And so I think when we as leaders can take ourselves out of it and allow the magic to happen, we are more likely to retain those people that enjoy being engaged, and we'll go forward in a direction that is going to get us the best solution to whatever the issue is.
Yes. A good leader that may not have the expertise of the difficulty that employee or that person or individual is going through, a good leader is going to know how to direct them to the proper resources. Right. You may not be able to handle it or have the expertise, but you know someone who knows someone, right? Yeah. And so you're a good leader. When they're pouring into others to make them better, they're going to also be able to direct them to a resource that is going to be able to help them take that on and get better at whatever it is that they're dealing with, because life happens. And even in our journey as regular people, we meet all types of people. Sometimes those encounters aren't always for us to be the fix-it people. They needed to meet you so that they can meet so-and-so who really can make a better impact. Right. And then it's not being jealous. It's not being, oh, well, they were part of my troop. I wanted them for myself. But no, I want to put them in the best place that's going to be better for them, because we all want to be better. Yeah. And so that's what I would add to a good leader being in that characteristic.
Yes. And this also goes from the military to the family and the relationship with a wife or children. That idea of just allowing me to bring my thoughts, my ideas, who I am to the table, and then you can decide what's best for our family, what's best for our relationship. I can see it working there very well. Because like you said, Renita, we just want to know that who I am and what I bring is valued. And then I'm willing to surrender to the decision. So I have been writing down some characteristics of leadership as you guys have been sharing them. It's boldness, it's discernment, it's awareness, it's trust your people, stay in your lane. There's wisdom when to go and save and when to stay and wait. And then there's selflessness. In your experiences and in your knowing, what frames powerful leadership? A building has a frame, they have the structure that holds it up, and then it's got all the pretty stuff put on the outside. But what frames powerful leadership?
I think it's just an awareness of self, first of all. That's the foundation, is an awareness of self. So, who you are, for those people who are believers, who they are in Christ, what their values are, what their strengths are, all of the things that make us uniquely ourselves are the things that make us powerful leaders. A leader that is self-aware and knows all of those things about him or herself. Those characteristics, first, it's got to start with who you are. I believe, again, I talked about personality, I talked about strengths, I talked about those values. All of those things make us who we are, and we have to be cognizant of that. Our emotional intelligence, our ability to understand the things that make us want to stick a pencil in our eye. Yes. And not just to be aware, but to be able to manage that, because I shared my story about infecting versus impacting. I learned this at 24 when I infected my team. I went in with a funky attitude, and all of a sudden everybody else was funky. I'm like, okay, what's happening? What is happening here? And I did it. It was me. I was the issue, right? And so, but being aware of that. And so that awareness then means that I need to do what I need to do before I even show up. We are responsible for the energy that we bring into the space. And when we're a leader, people are laser focus on everything that we do, right?
Yeah.
So we may think, oh, I'm not communicating anything. It's just coming out of your body, leaking out of your face, emanating from your being. If you're not doing what you need to do to fill yourself up with positive, authentic energy, then you're going to infect your organization. So knowing yourself and being yourself is the foundation, is the structure, and then you fill the rest up with whatever. That's what I believe. So
exactly. Yeah, I say exactly. And you lead by example, and that you pour into people to be better. You pour into yourself by getting the tools that are going to help you lead better. Mm-hmm. You get to know your team. You get to know who your team is, why they operate, why they function, and then you can find those things that's going to help develop you all to be what you need to be in your mission, say in the military, or in the workplace. That's what makes a good leader. I like that question because I thought about who were the better leaders that I've had. And it was the ones that poured into their leaders. It was the ones that poured into their employees to make them become better. This employee has a good gift in this. Instead of having them struggle on something that they don't really know, why don't I give them this and swap it with the person that really knows? How do I make my team trust each other? And how can I make my team respect each other? What things am I teaching them? Because if I'm a leader and I show no respect, no regard for everybody else is going to act like me when they go outside of our organization or outside of our department. I've seen that happen. If the leader got a funky attitude, you guaranteed every other employee is going to have a funky attitude. I mean, and I've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm. And it goes outside of the organization because you can't really be that way inside and expect it. We have all these logos and brands, but your brand is your culture. So if it's funky inside, it's funky outside.
They can't handle the nice person, the sweet person, the gentle person, the meek person, because that's not in their characteristics. But then they need to step back and say, well, wait a minute, maybe that person got a little bit of something I need. Because why is everybody on the outside of our organization only going to this person? So what can I do? How can I make every one of my team members a great asset for the organization, not just for my department, but for the organization? And it comes with teaching them core values, understanding, and even sometimes teaching them characteristics that they don't know, how to be more gentle. And you can still be tactful, how to make work fun, but yet still produce. I find that you get so much work out of people that love to come to work, have a great attitude, and want to be friends with their coworkers. Sometimes managers don't like the coworkers to be close, but that's how they're building trust and building the team player attitude that you want to have. Because when I know that we're on the same team and you're not my enemy, I'm going to work better with you.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Letting, people know that as a leader up front, none of us are enemies, but we're all one. What I do, you do, and even like when there's a number one and a number two, the second person in charge is only going to act when the first person in charge is not. If it's a president, the vice president is only going to act how the president is in an organization. This one's going to have the same way unless they've already dealt with that and understand how to show respect in their tone and other areas to dealing with people. Because it's all about how we build relationships. And the interesting thing, it all starts from when we were younger. It's how you've also taken what you've learned and you saw that doesn't work. And then I need to tweak it and make it a little bit better. And that's all we do.
Do you find that it's hard when you work with other leaders or whether it's leaders in business, military, family, do you find it's hard to get them to shift and to accept or to grab onto some of these nuggets? If you're a hard leader and you feel like you got to be the hammerer, do you find that, and how do you get someone to shift their ideas of how to get their team motivated and moved? I see some leaders and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we just have to stay away from them.
They need some training. They need to come and talk to Renita and Veronica, right?
Yeah, sometimes they just need a little bit of Jesus, honestly.
I think it depends on who has that leader's ear.
Okay.
When that leader doesn't have the ear of someone who is compassionate, understanding, and realize that they need to be tweaked. And really, it all boils down to accountability. If that leader does not have an accountability partner to tell them the truth, to let them observe themselves when they're dealing with their subordinates, it could be in ministry, in the church. It's how we handle people. Like you were saying earlier, people want to be seen. And so we just need to show up and tell people, I see you. I missed you. How do we share love with people and not really say the word love? How do we let people know that you can count on me? I had a call today from someone this morning. They called me to give me some tragic news related to their own personal self. When I hung up, it really got to me. And all I could say is, wow, that person values me. I've shown this person that I'm always there for them. And they felt in their time of need that I can call this individual. They didn't have to tell me anymore. They said, I gotta go. What I did not let happen is let what they said fall off on my ears. Okay. I picked up my phone and I sent a text to let them know that I'm here for you. Okay. Because they couldn't hear that. But when they picked up their phone, even if they wasn't answering their phone and they answer it later tonight and they just go through their phone, they'll see a message like, wow, she took the time after I called her today to write me a message that's going to help me in my time of need. Yeah. That goes back to what we're saying, knowing your lane. Sometimes people call you not for you to fix it. It's just to hear. How do we show up for people? How do we let people know that we're still there for them, even in the midst of what they're going through? And that's life. So someone would have to have the ear, hopefully the leader will be able to give ear to someone that is holding them accountable to be their best selves, to be better. It's when a leader does not have an accountability partner that they go haywire and everything is out of whack in their life. And you find that they have no balance. Yes. And so we all need someone who is accountable to check us, even good or bad. They just need to check us. And that's what I would say.
One of the things that I have noted during this pandemic, a ton of articles that talked about women, especially in government, taking on leadership roles and showing this level of compassion and love and kindness and empathy, which is what everybody needed in this pandemic situation. Right. And we make the mistake of separating those skills. We call those soft skills. Those are leadership skills. What we're discovering right now during the Great Resignation, or as I like to call it, the Great Reflection, is that people are like, you know what? I don't want to work for that leader that's not showing those things, that's not being that compassionate person that maybe I can pick up the phone and share what I'm going through, as Veronica, just discussed earlier, right? So people aren't, they're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work for that kind of leader. And so what I'm hoping will happen, and I'm ready to fill the gap.
Yes. We're going to get your contact information after this.
The training that so many managers, mid-level managers especially, need so they can show those leadership, that compassion, that kindness, that caring, that empathy to people who are, this is a chaotic situation. People are in crisis. Mental health has been talked about more than ever in this country. People are suffering. If we act like business as usual, people are going to leave. They're going to strike. There's been, uptick in strikes. And then, of course, in the uptick in the resignations. I think what's happening is leaders are learning, because it's always about the bottom line. And I call this feminine energy, the things that we call them soft skill, but no, they're leadership skills. And I think they're coming to the forefront. I think leaders are learning that, if you're not showing that to the people that you are privileged to lead, then they're not going to stay. But I think this time of reflection over the last almost 2 years now, people are saying, you know what? I don't need to stay in a place where I'm not valued. I don't need to work for poverty wages. I'm not going to do this anymore. And they're not.
Right.
And so get with it.
Yeah.
And I think what happened in this pandemic stage too, I think people have discovered that it was time to take that risk of faith to go out and become who they've always wanted to be. Whether it was opening up a business, whether it was just taking advantage of leaving a job. And I think people were scared. But do you know, I found a new job in the pandemic. So I want people to know that even with this pandemic, and they say jobs are scarce and things are happening, I lost a job and I found one. It's a matter of what you believe. If you don't have self-doubt, and which comes with that holy boldness, that we talked about. But if you just know and believe within yourself that you have something to bring to an organization or someone else, it will happen. People just need to be encouraged. And that's why we say, get a mentor, meet someone else to show you more of your characteristics than you believe that you have. Someone else to pick out some of the highlights of the good things that you're doing that you don't even know that can help in areas that you didn't even discover were there.
Yeah. So we talked about how with the great resignation, Renita, I can't remember what you called it, the great awareness, whatever's happening in reflection. Yes.
Right. It's
right.
Right. Yeah, as Veronica said, you're thinking, you're discovering, you're relying on some faith now. And so, people are thinking, they're rethinking things. Yeah. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So how do we empower ourselves? A lot of these things are happening, a lot of the crisis, a lot of change. But how do we empower ourselves to have all these characteristics of a leader, to lead our own lives, to lead ourselves into change and to sustain it? And not only to do that for ourselves, but then to do it for others. So talk about how we empower ourselves, that benefit of it'll hopefully spill onto empowering others. Because we talk a lot about leading others and showing them the way.
Lead yourself first.
We got to, we got to do that first. Yeah.
Well, I think empowering ourselves takes us to discover, and learn and find the resources that is going to help us get to our next. So you don't have to stay stuck. You just kind of just discover what I like, what I don't like, because we switch our likes and dislikes all the time. What I liked 10 years ago, I may not like today. What I'm finding a passion and wanting to do today may not be different. There were executives in this pandemic that discover that I no longer want to work a 9 to 5. I no longer want to be a VP of an organization.
Right.
I want more family time. And you know what? I discovered I like to bake. How about I open up a baking business? Learning. I think people have rediscovered and had a reflection of getting back to the basics of doing what you love to do. And finding those resources to get you to what you love to do, and empowering other individuals. We are helping them to tap into those hidden talents that have been pressed down because someone else told you couldn't do it. You didn't even realize that you had it in you because you wanted to always try it, but never had the courage to do it. We encourage people to tap into those other strengths that they have that they didn't even know that were there. And then just exposing them to the resources that are available to get them to what they want to do. That's how we empower yourself. It comes from within, and it comes with courage and with encouragement from those that are mentors, our loved ones, and those that give us the greatest support that we need and that believe in us and believe in what we do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything Veronica just said. I mean, once our basic needs are met, right? Once we can feed our families, we can clothe our families, we have a place to stay, then what are the things that are bringing us joy? I came to Chicago as a result of a job offer, and a year into it, it was like, this is really not what I want to do. What do I want to do in this phase of my life? And this was not it. And so I had to reflect, what is it I need? How do I want to live my life now? I want to travel. I want to sit and reflect for an hour or two in the morning. I want to go walk out by the lake if I want to. And so I quit my job. It's like, what do I need to live? I don't need a bunch of stuff. I'm on the downsizing phase, right? I don't need Christmas presents. Now, if you want to take me on a trip,
yes. Then
but I don't need a lot of stuff. Right. Just being reflective about once the basic needs are met, what is it you need? What is it you're supposed to be doing with your life? And how can you serve a greater purpose and serve others? I have my business, but I do a lot of pro bono stuff. I do a lot with young people with regard to leadership. There's an Air Force Academy High School right here in Chicago. I've been doing a leadership Empowerment Academy with them for 6 years. Earlier today, I'm a part of a program called Legacy Leaders. I just got off the board of the Ideal Candidate, which is a program here in Chicago that gives Black and Brown, particular young adults, the skills that they need to be successful in the job market. Once you have those basic needs met, what is it that gives you joy? How can you use all your skills and talents to make a difference in the world? That's, I think, how you empower yourself to lead others.
When did you guys realize when you found it, where you felt like, I feel empowered myself? Or did you always feel that way?
I think it takes on different phases of life. For me, it took on different phases of life of discovering. One moment or several years, I'm happy in a location, I'm happy in a place, I'm really loving what I do. And then you realize, I need to bring up a protege because I'm not going to be this age forever. So that's when we reach back and get someone else to take our place because someone else is about to leave where we need to go. So that's my mindset of it. And that's how it's worked for me. Always being in tune to when there are shifts in your life or feel stuck, always evaluating. And what a great time now, the end of the year. Are you finishing strong?
Yeah.
Are you really doing what you want to do? How many projects did you start and how did you just get one done? And then now this new year, how can I accomplish at least one more task that I didn't do in the previous year? This is a good time to kind of do the reflection and to realize, like, where am I? How did the year turn out? Was it topsy-turvy? Am I feeling really good now? And now I'm ready to go on. I'm ending the year strong. But then how do I build on that? Some of us might not have finished strong, but it's not anything to be discouraged about. You now have a new opportunity in a new year to get those things done. It comes in phases for me and empowering.
Okay.
Yeah. Great question. And it's been the same way with me. Sometimes I felt really powerful, sometimes not so much. I keep discovering layers. I keep finding different depths to my voice. My voice keeps expanding, I've noticed. I grew up from the South where disagreement meant disrespect. I had to learn how to be at the table and say a different opinion. And so that was something that I've grown into. Even just a couple of years ago, I discovered that I was holding back on some things. I was triggered by something that happened. I was like, okay, now what's going on here? I had to do a little bit of discovery and excavation. It resulted in some other things that I'm doing more powerfully now than I did before. I agree with Veronica, constantly discovering ways to be fully empowered. Some people get that early on. We see those people making differences in their teens and 20s. Not everybody gets it early on, but you can give it to yourself later in life. And I just want to add on to something that Veronica said. Yes, this is the time of year when we're often getting ready to go into something new. We're making New Year's resolutions, thinking about what we want to do, but we can also give ourselves some grace for the things that we didn't complete and ask ourselves why. What was the reason? What stopped me? What obstacle, what barrier kept me from doing that thing that I said I was going to do? Before we try to make those new resolutions, we can't move forward if we're being held back by old beliefs and things that no longer serve us. So you're continuing to grow bigger and more into who we are.
Yeah. What I'm hearing a lot, and I don't know if the listeners hear it and if you guys feel it, but it's very much self-reflective. It's really all about you and your inside. And you have to keep questioning what's going on. What was that? Why am I reacting that way? what did I just do and what didn't I finish? I got to figure out why I didn't do that. So it's not really building on skills, putting things on you. I need to speak better. Well, maybe you do, but there's something going on inside. Why don't you speak? Mm-hmm. Why don't you sit at the table and give your opinion? It comes a lot from the inside. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yes,
and absolutely.
Yeah. I call it a brainstorming powwow. Okay. A lot of times we need to just sit still. We're so busy. Right. We haven't even realized what we're working on is 50 million things. And then we need to sit down, have that brainstorming powwow, write it down, and say, which item am I closest to finishing? Yeah. How about I just work on that? And I like what you said, Renita, about giving ourselves grace. But more so than grace, we also need to forgive ourselves for not accomplishing what we wanted. It's okay. We might have told 100 people, I'm writing a book this year. That's my true story. My book, I got to finish it. I wanted my launch in October. It didn't happen. Yeah. But what I did is, okay, now, why didn't it happen? Right. So now I got to really set aside some time and get it done. That is really going to happen in 2022. You know what I mean? What resources did I not utilize to the best that I could have? Or did I really search out the right resources to help me get that final push? It's little things. It's not always big, gigantic things that we want to accomplish. It's small things. I say work from the small and then get to the large and work smart at it. Spend our time working smartly in those things that we desire and in those things that we want to accomplish. Give yourself grace, forgiveness, to forgive yourself for those things, because we are our worst critic and we beat ourselves down when there's really no need to do so. We need to learn how not have those two things work against us.
Right.
I do a course called Unblock Your Barriers. And it's all about those internal, and it's not to say, obviously, we are women of color. We're Black women here, sitting here. We have Black children, Black husbands, sons, and daughters. And so there are things that have been put out as obstacles for us since we were brought here in chains. But there's also the internal things that often keep us from doing and being what we would do and be. And so that's what I encourage the people that I work with to unblock, remove those barriers so we can step into the fullness of who we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And just show up being your best self, being the best that you can be for you.
Yes. So I was going to ask you both about building unshakable character, but I feel like a lot of the things we talked about were all about character. It's all about who you are and how you show up. Is everything you talked about, or maybe you can add that unshakable part? How do you build these things? And I know I talked about not getting off the rails, but when it comes to your internal, your boldness, your self-awareness, your voice, why you're here, what you're doing, how do we build that to be unshakable? I've already decided this is what I'm going to do.
It's when we go through stuff that we have no control over. It's the stuff that happens in our life, whether it's a tragedy, whether it's a mishap, it's going to build character no matter what. We're going to become stronger. We're going to even discover that, for me, you discover that, wow, I didn't know I had the wherewithal to go through that, but I did. So now I'm empowered. I'm encouraged that, anything that I encounter that is a challenge is to help me be better. And it is for my greater good. If we learn that, then we can help someone else to realize, child, what you're going through, you're going to be able to get through it. You don't see it now, but if you just follow the path you're on, you're going to get through it. That's what we do. That's how we encourage people. The stuff we go through in life builds character, and it's always redeveloping. It's always being strengthened, because it's in our going through that we discover more about who we are as an individual and what characteristic that we might have had that was weak, that is strengthened, life discovering a new you every day.
One of my favorite leadership gurus, Warren Bennis, talks about the crucible moments that we have, which is what Veronica is talking about, those things that test who we are to our core, test our values, test our faith, test our character, test who we are and the decisions that we. He uses Robert E. Lee as an example of someone who didn't necessarily pass that test. He was a West Point graduate, and when asked to lead the session from the union, chose to go with those who would have seceded from the union. And so we all have tests that we can use to build on who we are. A test is so that we have a testimony, because we get tested so we can share how we got over, how we got through, how we broke through with someone else. The things that we go through are the things that help us to be rooted in who we are, rooted in our faith. Because when you're going through something, maybe that was because you needed to pray some more, right? Yeah. Maybe you need to look at it internally. When we go through those things, get rooted in who we are and show ourselves. That is what allows us to withstand the next one. Because what are you going to do to me now?
In addition to that, it is our test. And I like how you say our tests are our testimonies. But we can be shaken and we can still come out unbroken. That's the thing about it.
We can fall down, but we got to get back up.
Get back up, like Donnie McClurkin says in his song. Right. But more than that, you know, life is going to shake us. There's things that's going to shake us to our core. Yeah. And that is what's going to help us. We got to realize that, am I going to let this thing keep me there? Or I'm going to build from this, you know? So we can be shaken, but we don't always have to remain broken. Yeah. When we share our story, we don't even realize what we're going through. There's always someone in that dark place to help pick us up.
Yeah. So, Veronica, there's somebody waiting on your book right now.
And I know they're waiting on my book.
They want to know who got over. They was
right. And Renita, you and I are going to catch up. You're going to give me those tools.
My book is right back there, sir.
And this is the thing. And, you know, my husband is anybody that knows him, I don't even know to say if he's a sports enthusiast or a sports fanatic. Okay. But I have learned that it's in the end zone where life happens, where things happen, and where we get the victory. So I got to put my book in the end zone so I can have my eye on the prize. What is it that you want to discover? What has stopped you from getting to what you want? Put it in the end zone and aim for it, because that's where the touchdowns happen. That's where the victory dances are. Just know that you can make it and you can get through it. I mean, I might have stopped in the midst of my book, but I know someone is waiting for my book. I'm also in the grooming stages where God is kind of restructuring what I started so that it can really fit the place and meet the need of the individuals that read it. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So I have one more question. I know our time is winding down. How do we're not professionals, we're not coaches, you know, we're not leadership trainers, but how do we in our everyday lives help to coach people into being better, whether they are professionals or we're in their family? How do we give us a little tips and tricks and how we can do that?
Well, Julie, I am a professional coach and trainer.
Yes. Yes. So you guys are going to tell us, those who are not, how to do that. Because my husband is so amazing at helping people. It's got to be a gift because things just roll. Whereas I'm a good listener, but I'm not really good at telling you what to do next.
Sometimes people just want to, you know, sometimes in the talking, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I learned when, you know, I came into coaching is all about listening.
Okay.
And it's sometimes in the talking around the problem that people discover. The answer is already in them. The answer was implanted in them. Sometimes they just need some help discovering it. And so you may not think that you're doing a service, but people pay thousands of dollars to just be listened to.
Yes.
So
I'm going to start my LLC tomorrow.
That's right.
Julia's coaching. All I do is listen. That's my tagline.
Sometimes it's just in the listening that they discover the answer. Sometimes people just need somebody to listen to them and to show them some compassion and caring, empathy. They're not necessarily looking for the answer, because sometimes you just want to talk to your husband. You don't really want the answer.
So that is so good. And it starts with listening. And what you do is do your best to help them come up with their own answers. That's how simple it is, because the whole point of it is you can't tell them what to do. Okay. I like the idea that you brought up, Renita, with your husband. We go and we talk about our day. We tell our husband something, and what happens? They automatically go in the fix it mode.
Yes.
So I preface things with my husband sometimes. I say, honey, I want us to talk. I want to say something to you, but I don't really need you to fix it. I just want you to listen, because sometimes they need to know their role. Because their role, like we say, we're natural women that go to rescue. They're natural fixers.
Yeah.
My wife got an issue. I got to make her happy. I need to go fix it. Well, sometimes we don't need that. We just need you to listen. Yeah. People don't really need you to fix their issue. They already have the answer. They just need you to listen. Yeah. And the head nod that you hear them, that and what they have to say is valuable. Yeah. That's all it is. It's so simple. Yeah. By talking it out, it makes more sense. People don't feel like, I could talk to myself. But if I had someone else to talk to, they can come up with the answer and the solution themselves. You can't tell people what to do because people are not going to do what you do. If people come up with their own answers, they're going to go do them because they had an aha moment.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely to all of that.
I want to thank you both so much. This has been so much fun. I feel empowered to do things and to act on things, and that you can grow and keep going and building, especially the forgiveness of what you didn't do this year. Okay, why didn't I do it? So you go into next year with not the same or similar plan to end up December at the same place. So you're going to want to take notes. I'm going to say that at the beginning when I do the intro, get a notebook. But I really want the listeners now to hear two things: how they can get in touch with you after this is over, and tell us about your book, your next project, just how we can, or they can, or we can all get engaged with you after this is over. Anyone
Absolutely.
Can jump
in. I have a website, leadershipunlocked.com. You can find me at Renita at leadershipunlocked.com. That is my professional email address. We can also include, Julia provided how to get in contact with me forms, so you can find me on social media at Leadership Unlocked. That's the name of my company. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is Renita Alexander, as well as Facebook. So hit me up.
That's where we find you. And I will put that information in the show notes with links so everybody can get in touch with you. And awesome. How about you, Veronica?
You can reach me at Alliance Seminars Coaching on Facebook and allianceseminars.org. Type in Alliance Seminars or Alliance Seminars Coaching, and you will get us. We'll be glad to help anyone.
So as we go out, tell me what's next. What's your next mission or project?
My signature group coaching program, a Leadership Chromosome. And I'll be offering that starting in the new year. And so that, check that out on the website. It's a way to get engaged and involved. And this is, for individuals who want to learn how to be the best leaders that they can be, so they can step into the positions, be at the table and step into the positions they deserve to be in. It's a group coaching program where individuals will be a part of a group, which is different from my team coaching program. I do have a team coaching program for existing teams. It's called the Agile Leader. Check me out.
How about you, Veronica? What is next for you?
Oh, a
book is coming.
Oh my gosh. Yes, a book is coming. It was birthed in me back in 2009, but it has taken on a switch maybe about 3 years ago. So I'm hoping to launch my book this time next year. We'll say, oh, wow, she accomplished it. Woo, woo,
Yes.
And then just continuing on with leadership training, as well as individual coaching, marriage coaching for those that are engaged and those that are having some hiccups. We'll be glad to just help navigate you to having a marriage that can thrive, to be healthy.
Well, thank you so much. I want to put a plug in for both of you that I am imagining and dreaming about a conference, an online conference that F50 Women can do. And I would just love to just put the bug in your ear that maybe you each can be speakers, workshop leaders. I am so excited.
That would be nice.
So yeah,
that's awesome. I love it.
That's what I'm hoping to birth in 2022, maybe the beginning 23, but
okay.
More to come. So I'm putting my plug in early so nobody will take you from me.
Yes, Julia, I love the collaboration that we have because it's all about encouraging one another to become their best self.
Yeah, wonderful. So thank you both again for being here, and it has been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.